class, or if you prefer, ethics and morals class.
And that's page what?
Okay, we left off on page 9, I believe it was. Isn't that what we said? Yep.
Thank you.
I'm just doing a little bit of a review here because we were off last week. I was really off traveling.
Yes.
So we discussed a little bit about, and Daniel, why don't you go ahead and open us in prayer.
Yes, sir.
Stacy. Don't just sit down. Oh, just take it out.
Oh, precious Lord, gracious
Yeah.
Savior, thank you for this day you've made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Lord, open our eyes and our hearts. We'll receive your message here. Give us application for this stuff. In our minds, in our everyday living, and in our, more important, our application to know you better. Thank you, Lord, for all things in the precious name of your Son, Yeshua, King Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so I believe that's page 9. And
Yes.
we had started talking about moral relativism.
Right.
And we talked about the key types of moral relativism. So, generally distinguished between 3 primary levels. Descriptive moral relativism, ethical moral relativism, and normative moral relativism. So we already went through those. And we left off right there, I believe, at the core arguments. Is that right?
Yes.
So the core arguments. Number 1, cultural diversity. Proponents, those who believe you can get that morals are just relative to your culture, your time, whatever. I thought he was raising his hand. He was looking at his glasses to make sure they're his. No.
You're filthy.
Oh. Okay. So they say one of the reasons they believe is proponents point to the vast differences in moral practices, such as views on polygamy. By the way, in Afghanistan, they just made polygamy legal again.
Again?
The Taliban, yeah, it's now legal in Afghanistan to have more than one wife. Yeah. And several other things that they did this last week that it's just turning.
This last week.
Yeah, just turning the country back to what we knew was going to happen when we left. We knew Taliban was going to turn back to Sharia law. Anyway, proponents point to the vast differences in moral practices such as views on polygamy, capital punishment, or animal rights as evidence that morality is a social construct. That there's really no such thing as something that's absolutely moral or absolutely immoral. It's just societies get together, society in Afghanistan, society here in the United States, and they make an agreement between themselves. Some things we're going to say is right, some things we're going to say is wrong.
Oh my.
And it leaves God totally out of it. It's moral relativism. It's relative to your culture and the time that you live in that culture. What is moral today in the United States, what 80% of the people believe is moral, is not what was believed was moral back when I was growing up.
Right.
Today, even 60% of the Christians believe homosexual marriage is just fine.
Oh my.
That's of the Christians.
What'd you say
60%
percentage
of the
was again?
That's
Huh?
sick.
60%?
60% of the Christians, self-professed Christians today, believe that homosexual marriage is okay. Of the evangelicals, 40% believe it's okay, which includes Baptists, Assemblies of God.
Who takes all these surveys? I was never contacted or asked my opinion.
No, I wasn't either.
So
Barna Research.
I've never run into anybody that's ever had one of these surveys done on them. So
Yeah.
how do we know that it's real?
Well, they what they do is they make phone calls to like 1,200 people and ask them, are you an evangelical Christian? Explain what they believe an evangelical Christian is, that you have to be saved by accepting Christ as your Savior. And the problem is that even amongst the Baptists, there are many of those that call themselves Baptists that believe homosexual marriage is just fine.
Why they never read? They never read Roman 1. Roman 1.
Roman 1.
Yeah.
I didn't, what did she say?
They never read Romans 1?
Well, they never read it, or they use a different Bible.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's the problem. Not all Baptists use the King James.
Right.
Southern Baptists, some of them use the King James, some of them use other versions of the Bible.
Depends if they're real Baptists or not.
Yeah, are they really Baptists? Well, they claim to be.
But
Not
Yeah.
all Baptists are.
And of the
Counterfeit.
various evangelical Christians, about 40% of them believe that Jesus Christ sinned while he was here on earth.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry. That's
my.
blasphemy.
If that was true,
We'd be
we're all
in
going to
trouble.
hell,
We're done.
because he's not the Lamb without spot or blemish. But the core argument is they say that the vast differences in moral practices, such as views on polygamy, capital punishment, animal rights, as evidence that morality is a
Right.
social construct. It's just the people in that culture got together and said, well, we decided some of these things we can do and some things we can't do.
So it's relative.
So that's why it's called relativism.
Yeah.
And then the argument from disagreement. Relativists argue that because sincere, rational people cannot agree on many moral issues, such as abortion, there is likely no objective truth to be found. Good, rational people, okay, can't agree on some of the very basic moral issues. And then the third core argument is promotion of tolerance. Many adopt relativism to avoid ethnocentrism, believing it fosters respect and open-mindedness toward other ways of life. That's one of my favorite sayings. Some people are so open-minded that when they bend over to tie their shoes, their brains fall out on the ground.
I see that.
That's how open-minded they are. Relative to your culture and the time in which you live. So it avoids ethnocentrism. In other words, well, because that ethnic group believes different than me, I can't really say they're wrong. Why? Well, because morals are just relative to your culture. There is no foundation. Okay. So I've got to adjust my...
Foundations.
Get rid of those relatives.
Yeah. Well, they're not relatives of mine, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
All right, I have to change something here so I can hear you guys a little better.
Not relative.
I'm getting a lot of tin canniness here.
If they are, cool.
All right. See if that'll work better. Okay. So those are core arguments for relativism. And now, common criticisms. Incompatibility, that relativism is incompatible with moral progress. If morality is only relative to a time and place, then the abolition of slavery cannot be viewed as moral progress. If you believe in relativism, it's not compatible, okay? The abolition of slavery cannot be viewed as progress or improvement, but merely as a change in social preference. That's a good one. I like that.
Yes.
And then another common criticism of relativism is logical self-refutation. It refutes itself. Logically refutes itself. Critics argue that if relativist claims it is always wrong to judge other cultures, they are asserting an absolute moral principle which contradicts their own premise that no absolutes exist. And it's just logical. It's always wrong to judge other cultures. Aren't they making a moral statement right there
Mm-hmm.
between right and wrong. If it's only relative to your time and culture, then saying it's always wrong to judge other cultures, that's moral judgment. So they're refuting themselves. Don't confuse me with facts. My mind is already made up. Okay? So they contradict their own premise that no absolutes exist. Another common criticism, the problem of atrocities. If morality is purely relative, practices like genocide or torture must be considered morally right within the cultures that permit them, leaving no ground for international condemnation.
Mm.
By the way, this was not written by a preacher or a Baptist. This is totally secular. This part of it is
Yeah.
totally secular. Now, I did collate a lot of it, so I put the textbook together, but I drew all of the various stands and things from their own literature. If you're going to refute something that someone teaches, you have to know what they teach,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
or you can't refute it. You don't know what to refute.
Right.
So, examples of differences. Universalism examples. Human rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, which, by the way, has been adopted by the UN. And if our leaders sign on, then we will be bound legally in this country by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Whether we agree with them or not will be irrelevant if our country's leaders sign on to the many things the UN is trying to put forth. So, promotes rights like life, liberty, and freedom from slavery as applying to all people. Sounds good. Sounds wonderful. Hey, I'm for that. Regardless of culture. Well, now, wait a minute. As they stem from human dignity, regardless of culture.
Gary.
But if I sign on to it, what if some other country doesn't? What if they don't?
Yeah.
Then am I supposed to send soldiers as an American citizen? Am I supposed to say that our government can send soldiers over to enforce that on countries that didn't sign on to it? That might still be members of the United Nations. I don't know. These are just things we have to consider. So they stem from shared human dignity. Well, you know, in many cultures, it is considered dignified for a woman to go topless from the waist up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's not undignified in some cultures for a woman to show her breasts. There are cultures right now that we're very familiar with because of our war in Afghanistan and the things that are going in Iran that we see on the news and all of that. Those cultures believe it is undignified for a woman to show her hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a representative in our country right now that you never see a picture of her with her hair showing. She always has it covered.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she has been very vocal about Israel is an oppressive nation that is trying to conquer its neighbors. And she has stood up for that and said that publicly.
Mm-hmm.
But in her culture, it's undignified for a woman to show her hair. Why? Because she's enticing a man to have sexual relations with her.
Oh my word.
Only her husband can see her hair.
And she's the one that shows up in pants for public
That is
meetings.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Very dignified person.
Very dignified person, see? So you can see where we're already running into problems with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights because promotes rights like life, liberty, freedom from slavery. Slavery is applying to all people regardless of the culture as they stem from shared human dignity. Well, now wait a minute. That woman does not share the same concepts of dignity that I share.
That's right.
And the countries that she is promoting and the religion that she is promoting does not share the same ideas of dignity the Christians do. The Muslim idea, Islamic idea, Muslim just simply means a fundamental follower, a very serious follower of Islam. Islam doesn't share the same concepts of dignity that Christians share. And not all of Muslim culture shares the same ideas of dignity that the majority of the Muslim culture shares. Because there are groups, subgroups of Muslim culture that believe if a woman is not a Muslim and shows her hair, she is open for any advances they want to make, including having sexual relations with that woman, because she did not share their particular views on dignity and morality.
Oh my.
In fact, those that are promoting terrorism around the world hold that particular idea of dignity and morality. If a woman is not a Muslim, it's open season.
Yeah, that's
There was a guy back on the East Coast. I mentioned him, I think, several weeks or months ago. Guy on the East Coast raped a woman, went to court, stood up and told the woman judge, "You have no right to even try me because the country I come from, what I did was legal." Raping the woman, why? Because she wasn't a
Didn't do it in
Muslim.
that country, he did it in this country.
Yeah, well, see, that's what the judge told him.
You ain't
Told the guy, "You ain't living in your country. You're living here," and tried him for rape. But that's the problem we have, is not everyone has the same idea of what is shared human dignity.
Yeah.
And justice. Universalism
But-
examples,
Pastor,
justice.
I think some Muslim men wear the scarf to do the terrorism,
To show what they are. I don't,
to killing people.
oh,
In
yeah, yeah.
Israel, the Hamas people wear the scarf like women.
Yeah.
And they have-
The reason they cover their face is they don't want anybody to know who they are.
Yeah,
Well, now, wait a minute.
Well, we have a culture here that does that.
that's not
People
culture.
go around with hoodies on all the time with them pulled way out here, so you can't.
Yeah, so you can't see who they are. Yep.
Yeah, that's going on right here in Salt Lake City.
Men do that.
So I always thought if you were going to stand up for something, they should be able to know who you are.
Mhm.
But justice, a universalist believes a core principle like murder is wrong applies everywhere, even if laws differ on capital punishment or self-defense. Well, now wait a minute. That means you don't have any choice in the laws of your own country. If we're going to enforce the laws across the world, anyway, okay? Ethics, a universal ethic would condemn torture as inherently evil, no matter where or why it occurs, because it violates fundamental human dignity. Well, now wait a minute. What is fundamental human dignity? There's no such thing.
relative.
It's relative, but a universalist believes it's not relative. So, relativism examples. Marriage and family. Polygamy might be seen as immoral in some Western cultures, universalist view, but as a valid cultural tradition in others, relativist view. In our culture right here in the United States, they can't even agree. They can't even agree.
Scientific.
In fact, in Utah, when they insisted a few years back that the government of Utah, the state government, start enforcing the laws against polygamy. You know what our, what do they call the guy that's the head of that? His name escapes me.
Cox.
No, well, it was the head of the state police, and said that I can't think of the guy's name that is supposed to make sure the laws are enforced. Attorney General The Attorney General of the state said this: "We have too much time worrying about serious crime to go around peeping in people's bedroom windows." And that's how he dismissed it. Yeah, he said, we have too much to do worrying about serious crime to go around peeping in people's bedroom windows. So even in our own state, they cannot agree on polygamy.
Yeah.
You can drive down the interstate out here, because Bonnie and I did that 25 years ago. And we were looking for a place to start a church. And you could drive down the interstate and watch off to the side, and you could tell the polygamous households.
Yeah.
You know how you could tell? Here's a great big huge house.
Oh, the fence.
It's got 3 garages. Then in the backyard, there is a 5th wheel trailer with stuff around it, obviously children, adults living in the 5th wheel. Then there would be a trailer house. Then there would be a 5th wheel. And they all obviously had families with children living in them. Who was living in the big house? The wife that had been the wife the longest. Then the newer wife with maybe 1 kid was living in the trailer house, 2 kids maybe. And then in the little 5th wheel was probably the latest wife that maybe didn't have any children yet, or was probably maybe gonna have 1. But you could tell they were polygamous households just driving down the interstate.
Yeah.
Bonnie and I drove into a town where there were no gas stations and no stores. It was what's called in Texas a bedroom community.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know why there were no gas stations and stores? They didn't want outsiders coming into town and spending any time. And as we drove through town, we saw a woman, then we saw a younger woman, then we saw a younger woman, all dressed identical, and this one
Yeah.
had 4 or 5 or 6 kids following behind her. Then the one a little younger than her had 2 or 3 kids following behind her. And then the one that was the youngest of the bunch had 1 or 2 kids following behind her. Now, do you think maybe that was a polygamous family?
No.
Nah, couldn't be. So they can't even agree in our own culture.
Down,
Here.
down south in Hurricane, Laverton, St. George, it's
Yeah,
a lot of that.
yeah, you see a lot.
And they all dress the same.
Yeah.
They dress-
Those little towns that we
Come
drove
out
to, because we
Colorado
went off
City.
the freeway on purpose.
Yeah.
There were no gas stations and no stores. They didn't want outsiders even stopping in town.
Okay, that's right.
So, number 2, freedom of marriage and family. Number 2, freedom of speech. While a universalist values free speech, a relativist might argue that limits on speech, like blasphemy laws, by the way, that's what's happening in Iran, and the last head count that I read today, they believe there were probably 60,000 in Iran that have been killed or disappeared
Oh, the
and will never
protesters.
be seen from again.
Of their own people?
Of their own people.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Ayatollah, blasphemy laws. Do you know how many, I think I mentioned this last time, do you know how many witnesses you have to have if I accuse you of blasphemy? You know how many witnesses I have to have?
No.
Just me. No witnesses. Just me, 1. That's it. If I accuse you of blasphemy, you go to jail. You go to prison. You go to jail, then you'll be tried in a court that believes in Sharia law, which means blasphemy is saying anything negative against Allah or anything negative against Muhammad. That's blasphemy. And at the very least, it is extensive prison time or the death penalty. So relativism, well, we got a problem here now. They value free speech, but they would argue that limits on speech like blasphemy laws are culturally justified in societies where public offense causes significant social harm. That now includes the United States of America. It includes the United States of America. There are 2 cities in the United States right now. If a Christian crosses a street into a particular part of town, which is Muslim neighborhoods, they are arrested for going into that neighborhood because they are causing significant social harm by preaching Jesus Christ in a Muslim neighborhood.
Oh,
2 cities in the United States right now.
Brotherly love.
Hmm?
Philadelphia.
I believe Philadelphia is one of them, and Boston, I believe, is the other one.
Boston?
Boston.
Oh,
I believe it's Boston. I'll have to check it out, but I think that's what it is.
How about Minnesota?
But if you preach Jesus Christ in a Muslim neighborhood that believes in the Quran only in Arabic, not in any other translation, in any other language, but if they believe the Quran, then you are committing blasphemy, and under their laws, they have a right to kill you in jihad, the holy war. So you're causing significant social harm by preaching that Allah has a son, Jesus Christ, rather than they believe he is the prophet, Jesus Christ. But anyone that says Allah has a son, that's blasphemy. And supposed to give you the short haircut.
Well, law's somebody else anyway.
Yep.
It's a moon god. It's got nothing to do with God.
I know, yeah. But even here in the United States, there are 2 cities that believe you're causing significant social harm by preaching Jesus Christ in a Muslim neighborhood. You're going to either be attacked, you're going to be killed, or something significant is going to happen. So it's even here in the United States.
Isn't it kind of,
And
isn't
the
it kind of,
government don't say nothing?
Huh?
The governor don't say nothing about that one?
No.
governor's with it.
The city
Yeah.
sends
talk
their
about
police
the
out
city.
to arrest a Christian
Oh, man.
for crossing that street.
But I say, you have governor in the city.
Huh? You got the city, you've got the governors evidently going along with it because the state police aren't doing anything about it.
Okay.
So, yes.
isn't it kind of ironic that Philadelphia would be the city of brotherly love?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Brotherly love, but make sure that the Muslims love themselves and the Christians love themselves. So
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. So cultural practices, the historical practice of sati, widow immolation. If I die, it's now against the law, but it used to be the law. If I died, then they were to take Gracia out and burn her to death.
Oh,
It's called sati. Sati.
the Muslim?
No, Hindu. It's a Hindu practice. You'll be getting some appendices, some appendices. You'll be getting some that explain what sati is. So the historical practice of sati, widow immolation, that just means burning, in India was defended by some as a sacred cultural tradition, according to relativism, while condemned by others as a violation of universal human rights, universalism. So we got a problem between the universalists and the relativists. So key differences in application. But they did. They would take the widows out and burn them.
Oh my.
That was a sacred religious rite. Now, I got another problem. In the United States, okay, our Constitution says that our federal government cannot pass a law to hinder or promote any particular religion. But what if those Hindus in the United States, maybe a group of them, believed the old Hindu practice of sati was a religious rite? I wonder what that would do in the Supreme Court. I'm just questioning in my mind, what would happen in the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court decided if it really could be proved as a religious rite, then our Constitution says there could be no law passed to prevent sati. It's just something to think about. I wonder what would happen in the Supreme Court. I don't know. So, key differences in application, universalism. I told you this is part of your critical thinking class. I'm just going to pass some of these things out for you to think about and then apply them to where we get our morality from. So, key differences in application. Universalism focuses on common humanity, seeking consistent global standards and condemning practices deemed universally harmful, such as slavery or genocide. Oh, now wait a minute. Sati would not be universally harmful, would it?
No.
It would only be harmful to the widows. That's not universal. Okay, don't confuse me with facts. My mind was already made up. And the difference in application, relativism, emphasizes cultural context. It's relative to your culture, arguing that moral judgments should be made relative to the society's norms, respecting diverse traditions and preventing cultural imperialism. Okay, if you believe in sati, there you go. If you believe, as they do in many Muslim cultures, the slavery's okay. It's okay. Now we get finally, that's just, all that was the introduction. Now we get to page 11. Chapter 1, we're finally into the body of the text. This was originally presented by Doc Van on 0404 of 04, 04 of 04, to the Atheists of Utah group. They asked me to come and lecture them on morals and ethics. So on April 4th of 04, I went and actually, this is my outline.
And you rearranged it?
Some material has been added or rearranged for purposes of use in this class. I didn't take anything out. I left it all there. But because I am not teaching a room full of atheists,
Right.
obviously I had to add a little bit to it or rearrange a few things, but the outline is basically the complete outline that I delivered to them. April 4th of 04. Some material has been added or rearranged for purposes of use in this class. That material is in bold italics, so you'll know what I added or rearranged.
To protect the ignorant?
No, it's because in your speech class, remember, you need to know your audience. So,
Why didn't you do this on the 1st of April?
well, April Fool's Day. Well, because they weren't meeting on that day.
Oh,
It just turned out that it was 04 of 04. Okay?
What for?
What for? I include the following because it is a good summary of morality and its possible sources. So I call it Some Thoughts on Morality. What my purpose was with the Atheists of Utah was to get some Bible to them.
Yeah.
Get some Bible to them. Because he asked me if I would do it. He knew I was a Baptist preacher. In fact, the man and wife that were running the Atheists of Utah group that were meeting over on the east side, Sugar House. They both grew up Methodist.
Oh, wow.
They both grew up Methodist and both became atheists later in life.
Was
Yes.
this the same people that thank God they were atheists?
No, that was the national meeting. The national meeting of the atheists of the United States,
Yeah.
national meeting. He stood up and he said, I thank God I'm an atheist. So, okay.
That's so ridiculous.
I need to get the other sign back up here. Don't confuse me with facts.
That's so
Anyway,
ridiculous.
what I wanted to do was show them that the basis of our morality was the Bible.
Yeah.
All right? Even the laws of our country are based on the Bible.
Right. Yes.
And I mentioned to them that the front facade of the Supreme Court has all of the different sources that people use for morality, Plato was there, Socrates is there, and in the very middle, all of them are looking at one guy holding two tablets. Moses. And on the back wall of the room where the Supreme Court meets, on the back wall, coming in the doors,
He's there too.
yep, are the Ten Commandments listed. Okay, so I wanted to show them that you can still use the morality of the Bible even if you don't believe in God. Because obviously they don't believe in God. That's why you said the first of April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to show them that the morals from the Bible are usable even for atheists. So anyway, so this is the outline of, and it took 45 minutes to get through it for them. All right, and then afterwards, well, I told the guy and his wife, I said, I'll present it from the various places that people get their morality, but I have to be able to include the Bible as my source of morality.
Yeah.
And they both said, you're giving the speech. Do it any way you want to do it. They were the same ones I handed out smiley face tracts to everybody there at the Atheists of Utah.
Yeah.
I handed one to him and one to his wife. He looked at me. And atheists believe you need to follow the dictates of your own conscience. So when I handed him, he looked at me, he took it, he looked at me, she looked at me, and I just said, I'm just following the dictates of my own conscience. He's actually smiled and almost laughed out loud. What could he say? You know, they were really nice people. Hey, don't think that atheists are Dracula going to bite you in the neck and infect you with the devil or so. No, they're not. They're just people. They're just people. People are people. They were very moral people. I never heard them cuss one time.
And where did you get those fang marks in your neck?
Yeah, those are warts, brother. They're warts. All right. So, but no, they were very moral people. They were nice people. You know. The problem is if we could see into hell, we would find a whole bunch of very nice people.
Yeah.
We would.
You would.
Why? Because you're not saved by works.
That's right.
You're saved by grace.
Right.
So, some thoughts on morality. So anyway, after the 45-minute lecture, which took about 45, 50 minutes, after the lecture, the one guy that was a professor up at the U, he pinned me down. He pinned me down.
Uh-huh.
And he kept asking questions and making comments, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, now really he wanted me to answer from the Bible.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I said,
Oh,
I was asked to give this lecture and take questions from everybody, but this guy kept butting in on. He pretty much outshouted everybody.
You couldn't
Kept
pay
butting.
for that.
Yeah, and kept pinning me down to the Bible, and I said, if you would like to have further discussion, my business card's on the table back there. It's got my email address on it. So why don't you, take the card and email me, and we'll start a dialogue back and forth. Now, don't avoid the question.
Oh, really?
Don't avoid the question. So I turned to the guy and his wife, and I went, and they said,
Go ahead.
go ahead. So now the Atheists of Utah had an independent, fundamental, Bible-believing, King James only Baptist preacher
That's great.
lecturing them on morals and ethics, and they would allow me to do nothing but go to the Bible. I couldn't have paid $1 million to do that.
Oh,
You could have bought that. There's no way you could have paid them enough to let me do what they forced me to do.
oh, I love it.
But they don't believe in the God that brought that whole thing about.
Oh, man.
And I didn't say that to them. I didn't say that to them.
What was I gonna go?
After a 45 to 50-minute lecture, they pinned me down and allowed me to talk about nothing but the Bible for another hour.
Oh, that's great.
That was great.
Oh,
So I just kept on going. So, but this is what I gave him in the first 45 to 50 minutes.
Preach the
All
sermon.
right. Huh?
Preach the word.
Yep. And I mean, he wouldn't let me do anything but keep going to the Bible.
Oh, that's good.
And what I kept, and my common answer after we would discuss it a little bit was, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
In other words, you can still follow the morals of the Bible even if you don't believe in the Bible. You know? Even if you're an atheist and don't believe in God, that doesn't make those morals wrong. They're still good, no matter where they came from. So don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. For them, the Bible was the bathwater. But they want to throw that out and all the morals, all the baby, along with the bathwater. So, anyway, introduction, definitions. Okay, here we go. Morality is the system through which we determine right and wrong conduct. In other words, the guide to good or right conduct. Ethics is the philosophical study of morality. Ethics is the philosophical study of morality. Number 3, law is a principle governing political or social affairs, the formal product of a legislative or judicial body, a broad and basic rule or truth. For our purposes, since all law is based on someone's morality, all law, every law on the books is based on someone's morality.
Yep.
You can't murder. Well, that's
Says who?
the biblical
God.
moral of thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
Well, now wait a minute. What about all of these? Let's just take governing houses and how you can build, where you can build a house here and where you can build a house there. Zoning laws, they're all based on someone's morality. Well, I don't know what it is in Salt Lake, all right? But where I came from in Washington State, you couldn't build your house wall closer than 12 feet from your neighbor's house.
Oh.
All right? Yeah, I don't know what it is here. The parsonage had to be where it is right now because it had to be so many feet from the neighbor's fence. Why? Because my morals say, I don't want you to disturb me with your loud noise.
Right.
I don't want your plants growing into my yard. So all of those laws really are based on my moral principle that says, I don't want to be disturbed by you. And I don't want you encroaching into my personal territory.
Right.
Now, those laws never used to be in the United States until the Constitution that gave us the right to property. See, in England, we adopted that from English common law because in England, under feudal law, we couldn't own property.
Yeah.
Only the local lord owned the property.
Oh.
And I lived on his property as long as I would give him a percentage of everything I grew. That's under feudal law. Then in England, when they came up with a Magna Carta and so on and so forth, that gave the right of personal property to the citizens. But under feudal law, you could only do what he said. In fact, under English law, they had a law called prima nocta. Prima nocta. I laughed so hard, I thought I was going to fall over. When I moved to Utah, and on New Year's Eve, they started calling it first night. That is prima nocta. Prima nocta. You know what that law is? That the Lord of the manor had the right on the wedding night of the bride to sexual rights to that bride on her wedding night before her husband.
No.
Prima nocta.
Disgusting.
Prima nocta.
Oh man.
In fact, the King of England when Scotland was trying to become its own country, he was moving English lords from England into Scotland and giving them land in Scotland. And the Lord said, now if we move to Scotland, we've got to start paying new taxes to you, because they had to pay taxes. They owned the land, so they had to pay the taxes to the king. And so he said, well, the way to get them to move to Scotland is institute the old custom of prima nocte. It's called first night.
Oh, wow.
First night. And that was the law, and you had nothing you could do about it. She had to sleep with him on her wedding night, and then he sent her back home to her husband. He sent her back home to her husband. Yeah. So I just about laughed when they started calling New Year's Eve first night down here, and that I thought, they really don't know their history, do they? Yes.
Well, you know, in the American Indian culture, there's no ownership of land.
No, they don't.
You're a steward of it.
Yeah. Even on the reservations today, it's still the same way. Yeah, on the reservation, the nation, like the Sioux Nation, they own the land. And the various families get to live there. And they help them build a house, but they never own that land. That's how I mentioned, I think once before, the double wide I bought up in Washington State. I bought it from the nation. And the guy that was living there got upset because he thought he owned the house.
Oh,
And I paid $3,000 for a double wide to the nation. He was upset he didn't get the money, so he put a curse on me.
oh, yeah.
Remember I told you he built that little thing on the
Yeah.
side, put the fish bones in,
Yeah.
and the real estate agent about fell off his chair. He said, that guy will never touch that furniture for the rest of his life because you put a curse on it by putting his fish bones back out there and the stuff. So anyway, back to where we are. Okay. So we've got the law. Principle governing political or social affairs or formal product. That's what I got to. All law is based on someone's morality.
Yeah.
Well, that's changed here in the United States. It changed in England from the feudal system on down to what they have, the legislative systems, and the same way in this country. In fact, in this country, when the preachers first came to the United States and started civilizing the Indians, the Native Americans, they wouldn't let husbands and wives sit together in church because they hadn't been married in church. The women had to sit on one side of the church and the men had to sit on the other side of the church. Under Muslim law, women are not allowed in the same room with the men to worship.
Oh,
Under Judaism, it was the same way.
yeah.
The women had to sit in one section, there would be a lattice work, and the women had to sit on the other side, and the men all sat together. And that's the way it was in the synagogues. Yep. And the same way in the temple. The women were not allowed to go in. There's the women's section and the men's section. So all law, even real estate law, is based on someone's morality. It's so as not to offend someone's personal sense of right and wrong. Because remember, morality, the system through which we determine right and wrong. Okay, for our purposes, since all law is based on someone's morality, then law can be considered as a codified or codified, whichever way you want to pronounce it, codified set of morals enforced by force, or, if you will, by prescription of negative consequences for transgression of that code. You break the law, you go to jail. That's it. It's a codified set. All right? Statement. Number 4, statement. Most take moral theories to be prescriptive. Therefore, we must determine what is the proper way of determining right or wrong. Prescriptive means a prescription of what you should do, or a prescription of what you should not do. I have a form that I use when I'm counseling people. And by the way, we have that release form too, for anybody from the church that counsels anyone on behalf of the church. They have to fill out that form, you have to sign it, and they have to sign it. It releases the church of any legal responsibility. All right? I have another form that I fill out, and at the bottom is a little box that says prescription. It's my counsel to them, biblical counsel, because as counselors from the church, we cannot give marriage counseling, we can't give teenage counseling, we give Bible counseling on marriage. We give Bible counseling on family. We give Bible counseling on how to raise teenagers. What does that mean? That means Bible. See? And the person that signs it, that we're counseling, in there it says they understand we are not licensed by the state as counselors. Where do we get the right to give Bible counsel? From the one that gave the Bible. So if there would be a lawsuit, constitutional right to practice my religion in the way that I see fit, constitutional right, my Bible says I'm supposed to teach everybody.
Yeah.
So I can teach them biblical counsel on marriage, biblical counsel on thou shalt not steal, biblical counsel that you should go to church. I can give them Bible counsel. And so here, most take moral theories to be prescriptive, prescribing what you should or should not do. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
But what you're describing there is what they call codified law now. We had before that common law.
Common law. Yep.
And if it was immoral, it was illegal.
Yep. But now law.
But you said prescriptive. That's codified. What's this prescriptive?
Mm-hmm.
That's what almost all of the states have finally come around to.
Yeah.
But when I first went to basic training, there are some states such as Georgia and Louisiana that still had common law.
Yeah.
They did not have codified law.
Now, Washington State.
They could write you up for felony stupid and get by with it.
Really?
Yes.
Boy, there'd be a lot of people in jail for that one. State of Washington did have common law marriage. That if you signed into a motel as Mr. and Mrs., she could take you to court and get 50% of everything you owned. The way the law is right now, if you invite someone to stay in your house, you cannot uninvite them.
They can stay indefinitely.
They can stay as long as they want.
You can encourage them to find
Yeah.
other places.
The police told the woman, I managed apartments up in Auburn, Washington, and the woman had a guy living with her, and he beat her up, and the police could never prove abuse. And so she said, I want you to get him out. And so I went there, I told the police, I said, he's not on the lease. He cannot be living here, all right? And the cop says, you'll just have to go to court. You got to go to court? I can't throw him out. Why? Well, because his belongings are there. He lives there. And I said, well, I would have to throw the woman out. Of course, the owner said, no, Section 8, 80, 90% of her rent came from the state. He wasn't going to throw her out. And so on the way out the door, the cop turned to her and went, before you call me next time, open the back window and throw all this stuff out in the alley. And then call me. And then walked off.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, because when the cop came the next time, his belongings weren't there.
Yeah.
If he was there and his belongings weren't there, then he would be considered a trespasser, I guess. So, anyway, we must determine what is the proper way of determining right and wrong. Statement. All right, I'm going to go up a little bit. Since morality is used to determine if certain actions are essentially right or wrong, and therefore, by application, concern whether my own actions or those of others, whether past, current, or future, are right or wrong according to the standard which I have chosen. And since generally, we use our standard of morality to determine if our actions or the actions of others are acceptable, in the context of interaction between self and others, then a workable moral system must be concerned at one of its most basic levels with the interaction between two or more people. I mean, that's just logical, isn't it? Yes.
Well, that's you're putting one person, your morality against theirs.
That's why I say we have to determine something that is agreeable between us. Something agreeable that would prescribe to both of us what are good or bad, right or wrong actions. And so morality, a moral system, must be concerned at one of its most basic levels with the interaction between two or more people. I could be moral in myself and go off and live on a mountaintop somewhere and follow my particular belief of morality because you're not around. But really, at its most basic level, isn't morality really how I act with you and how you act and interact with me?
Yes.
So at its most basic level, really is concerned with the interaction between two or more people. Because if it's only one person, I'll just go live on the mountain. Why? Well, because if I don't live off on a mountain by myself, I got to be around two or more, me and someone else. So really, we need a moral system of how we interact with two or more people at a very basic level.
We got a society of billions of people.
Yeah, that's why I said two or more people. So yes, there can be moral decisions that, humanly speaking, concern only self. But I believe those decisions are so personal that we must leave that person to their own deliberations and conclusions. In those cases, we can certainly guide, but we cannot judge. In other words, if you believe that murder is okay, and you go live off on a mountain by yourself somewhere, then really that's a personal decision for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I'm not concerned. But now if you include me, now we got to have a system that we both agree on.
Yeah.
Why? Because you don't want me to kill you, and I don't want you to kill me. So, suicide, okay? If I'm involved with you, your suicide involves me. You're only killing you, but it involves me. So between the two of us, we have to have a moral system that either says suicide's okay or suicide's not okay. Now, my personal moral stance is it's not okay. Why? Well, because when you commit suicide, that's going to affect me deeply.
Yeah.
So we have to have a common ground here somewhere. But if that's telling me it's time for my medications. And incidentally, it's also telling me we're out of time. Stop.
All right.
It's also telling me my phone many times does not want to, see, it won't recognize my touch.
Lick your finger.
There we go.
Finger and touch it.
Yeah. So, okay. Yes, there can be moral decisions that, humanly speaking, concern only self, but I believe those decisions are so personal, we must leave that person to their own deliberations and conclusions. In those cases, we can certainly guide, but we cannot judge. So, well, yeah, but what if you decide to go off onto a mountaintop and kill yourself? Now, wait a minute, I'm still involved, aren't I? Because I knew you before you left. Now, if you were born and raised up on a mountaintop by yourself somewhere, and I never met you, it doesn't involve me, whether you kill yourself or not, because I never met you. I've never been around you. But if I've ever been around you, now we've got to have a common system. Because even if I didn't know you very well, if I had only met you, and someone says, you know that guy you met on the street corner down there, and you only saw him for about 5 seconds, he went off and killed himself. It's still going to affect me. Why? Because immediately that picture of that guy is going to come back to my mind. And it's going to do something to me. Knowing that guy was alive and now he's dead.
Yeah.
So see, it really concerns interaction between two or more people. And that's where we're going to leave you right there. Okay? My personal concern. That's where we're going to pick up next time. I want your opinion. What do you think of this class so far?
Pretty cool.
Okay? Making you think?
Yeah, so good.
That's the purpose. Making you think. Because if you know why other people and believe certain ways, or morally speaking, or they receive their morals from a different source than we did,
Mhm.
how can we refute what they believe if we don't know what they believe? Now the Bible says, I would have you wise unto that which is good, and simple, that means unsophisticated. That's what that word simple means. Wise, very sophisticated in that which is good, and simple concerning that which is evil. That's why what I gave you so far in a few pages is actually a condensation of probably 100,000 volumes
Yeah.
on relativism and docetism and different and
Philosophy.
ethnocentrism. So all I did was just gave you a very simple, unsophisticated, just a little bit so you would know where they're coming from and why they believe what they believe. Yes. Oh, he went like that. So
Oh, sir,
you just bought the cow.
it's philosophy.
All right. So, all right. That is it for tonight. Brother Spillman. So any other comments on the class so far? Is there something we should cover more or less, or is it okay so far?
I think you're doing good.
All right, because I'm trying to condense 100,000 volumes down into just a short class.
Scratching the surface.
So, but at least you have a general idea of why they believe what they believe. Would you dismiss us in prayer?
Well, Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for giving us your word that we can study, giving us your word to guide us through this life. Father, just pray that you'd cause us to be able to apply it, use it properly, and give to others, Father, that they might know your salvation. We just thank you for it all. Pray you get us a safe trip home. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. So there we are. I'll get us offline. And then you can tell me what you really think of it. No,
Well, Josh,
I
just a moment. Let me get us offline here first.
good idea.